This painting is called Life is Everywhere by Russian painter Yaroshenko. It was mentioned in Part 2, Chapter 1 of Solzhenitsyn's book. Yaroshenko lived from 1846 to 1898, so he never got to see the revolution. Never even got to see a lot of the stuff that led up to the revolution. Good for him. He was known for depicting realism, so in this picture it's a painting of prisoners looking out a window and seeing birds. And after reading Solzhenitsyn's chapter on the devolution of prisoner rights, that's real. That's some real stuff. If you look through his other paintings, he painted a lot of scenes of real life, often sad scenes, often scenes of people going through hardship. There's a painting titled Funeral of a Firstborn. That title speaks for itself. You can Google and see that if you want. On a lighter note, he did do some happy scenes as well. In particular, a painting called The Swing and also a painting called The Gypsy. Those two caught my eye. I rather enjoyed those. As for this painting, he painted a time when the fight for prisoner rights was filled with sweet summer children. One of the things the painter Yaroshenko did was he painted life, specifically people, as he saw them. This painting, Girl Student, to a modern audience we don't see much underscoring it, but to a late 19th century Russian, you can see it particularly in her fashion. She's projecting all the high society floofy apparel, very plain clothes, very plain dress, plain colors, doesn't bother with corsets. This is someone who we can imagine buying into the whole second-wave feminism thing of not dressing to attract the male gaze. And just that fact alone would have associated her with left-wing, revolutionary anarchists of the time. So in that way, when we look at it in that context, this painting becomes a statement about the role of women, and also the role of students to a lesser extent, in anti-government political movements in Russia. This painting is Gypsy Woman by Yaroshenko, the same Russian painter we've been looking at for a little while. His thing is realism, so he painted things that he saw in real life. So the image you see is stereotypical gypsy woman as a Russian in the 1880s would have seen it. Gypsies have a long history in Russia. Well, they're a nomadic people, so they have a long history in many European nations. And because they move around so much, they're not seen as being part of the local culture in any place at all. So they tend not to be too well liked in any place that they land in. After Yaroshenko's time, Soviet Russia was especially unkind to them. Stalin put forth some pretty big efforts to integrate them into Soviet culture, and later on there was actually a sterilization campaign in 1956. And by the way, Americans who've never met a gypsy will get all up in arms about me using the term gypsy. I have actually traveled through Europe and spoken to many Europeans. Gypsy is the correct term, and if you're offended by it, you've probably never... Underrated painting of the day. This one is In a Warm Land by Yaroshenko. Many look at the painting and they see a woman sitting in a garden having a time with nature. Many do not know this is actually a portrait of a specific person. Anna Chertkova, children's writer and friend of Tolstoy. And the other interesting thing about this painting is that while it was being painted, the painter Yaroshenko was suffering from consumption disease, known by modern medicine as tuberculosis. The symptoms are coughing, bacteria in the throat and lungs, and the infected person will lose a lot of weight so it looks like their body is being consumed, which is why they called it consumption. Yaroshenko wrote that for a month and a half, he was almost immobile, not fit for anything, could only sit in an armchair in the cushions, just like this picture. Another Yaroshenko painting, this one titled On the Swing. I've seen modern, postmodern, feminist-minded people interpret this painting that the girl feels trapped, that the guy maybe is being creepy, that she doesn't want to be there. I don't think that's the right way to look at this. Especially considering what I've heard secondhand from plenty of people, that Russian facial expressions, they just don't smile unless they have a reason to. Americans, we pass by someone on the sidewalk, never met them before, nod, smile. In Russia, that's weird. Or at least so I've heard. But given that information, looking at this painting, the guy's face, he pretty clearly has a happier facial expression than just neutral. And the girl as well, like she's hiding it behind her hand, but I can sort of see the beginnings of a smile on the edge of her mouth there. Shyness, giddiness, excitement, those are the words that come up in the traditional interpretation of this painting. And I'm inclined to go more with that. Paintings, The Prisoner by Yaroshenko. As someone who is coming off of Solzhenitsyn's work and branching out into art, this, as well as Yaroshenko's other Life is Everywhere painting, illustrate, I think, really realistically the mindset of a prisoner. Not distraught, not miserable, but calm, observing the life that he's able to see. This does match Solzhenitsyn's description of what prison life is like. As far as the details in the painting, we see a lot of dark, a lot of blank space. Nothing but darkness in that cell surrounding him, but he's fixated on that window. This might be hope for the future, or it might be sort of a vanity thing, vanity in the sense of the book of Ecclesiastes in the Bible. Vanity meaning even the most seemingly glorious pursuits in life are ultimately meaningless without the sense of meaning that God puts into life. So this could symbolize any man, not even a prisoner necessarily, surrounded by vanity, and looking to God, the one source of hope, the one source of meaning. Another painting, The Stoker by Yaroshenko. I've seen interpretations of this of the worker, the fire stoker, being unseen, and aristocrats never realizing that they have a debt to someone. Very proletarian, very late 19th, early 20th century Russian. But that interpretation doesn't quite click with me. Here's another that I saw. This man's eyes have an intelligence behind them, and it signifies a revolution of thought in his political and social world. Yaroshenko painted this in, I believe, the 1870s. Just 4 decades later, that would be the Russian Revolution. There was certainly a revolution of thought going on in the Russian world at that time, especially among regular physical manual labor workers. And we see that same thing today. In the past decade, 2 decades, in the United States, we have broken out of this thought bubble, this late 20th century thought bubble, that neoliberals, neoconservatives together have boxed the populace into. Having lived through that and seen it, I can absolutely relate to this painting.